Hi, I'm Chris Kelley, and I'm here with Brian Layton at ANKOM Technology, and we're going to demonstrate how to operate the ANKOM automated dietary fiber system. So Brian, we're getting ready. We've got the instrument all hooked up and the solutions on it, which we'll be talking a little bit about that process. But before we can even start, though, there's a little bit of preparatory work that has to be done. We don't use Crucibles or any glassware, but we still have to do something. So give us an idea of what you did to bring us to the point of operation.
Sure. Well, of course, we do have to weigh. We have two different bags. Today we're going to do an IDF, SDF, insoluble and soluble fiber process. So we have two different bags. This is our IDF bag, and this is our SDF bag. And I wanted to put them side by side so that you can see the difference. You'll notice that the SDF bag is just a little bit longer. And if you were to put them top to bottom, you would also notice that the SDF bag is just a little bit wider. And the reason for this is because on our instrument, they sit just as Chris had them, with the IDF bag above the SDF bag, so that when the digestion process filters down through, it will filter down into the SDF bag. So the bags will be on the instrument just like this. Now, if we were going to do a TDF run, we have what we call a flow-through bag. And this bag, very simply, is the same size of the IDF bag. However, it has no filter, so that all of the digested portion will go down into the SDF bag, giving us a TDF value. So those are the difference between the two bags. Today we're going to do an IDF SDF process.
And of course, if somebody was doing a TDF bag, because they do a rinse process that clears this bag out, they could use this bag again and again, whereas this bag gets destroyed because of either a protein or an ash responsibility.
No, that's exactly right. Exactly right. So as we prepare the bags, the first thing we want to make sure that they're numbered. And you can see that we placed a number on the filter of the SDF bag, although it can be placed anywhere on the bag, on the plastic portion as well as the filter. And we placed a number, in this case, on the plastic portion of the IDF bag. Because of this covering of plastic on the filter, it's a little bit difficult to write on the IDF filter. So that is why we have placed the number up in the on the plastic, or what we call the polypropylene.
And then a person could also write especially if they're doing a lot of volume, numerous tests, because you can do 3 to 4 runs in a day with this system. We'll talk a little bit about that. But you could also put your study number as well as the bag number.
Certainly.
Any way for you can track the
Certainly.
bags.
Any identification process you wish can go on the bags. Now, one thing that's really important, the polypropylene has a static charge. And if you try to weigh it without removing that static charge, it's virtually impossible to get an exact weight of the bag. So what we've found is, by using this bag weigh holder, which is very simply a tube, an aluminum tube, by placing the bag in the tube, first of all, of course, we would tare the weight of the tube, then we'd place the bag in the tube, place it on the balance, and get an exact weight. It helps the weight of the bag to settle very quickly on the balance. Very important part of weighing the bags, the bag weigh holder.
It actually creates a Faraday cage.
Exactly. So what we would have done is we would have weighed both sets of bags, again today, IDF and SDF bags. The other process in preparing is to prepare 6 weigh tins for diatomaceous earth and 6 weigh tins for samples. Basically, the diatomaceous earth, we normally have between 1 and 1.1 grams of diatomaceous earth, and the sample, normally about a half a gram of sample in each tin. Do we want to talk a little bit more about weights of sample?
Well, one of the things we've talked about before is the 99143, that's the AOAC method that we're going to demonstrate today, talks about using a 1 gram sample. However, as you go from laboratory to laboratory, depending on the sample type, you'll see some laboratories in the conventional method going as small as 100 milligrams, largely because it's very hard for them to filter it through the fritted glass crucible with diatomaceous earth. We eliminate most of the filtration problems. Again, we're going to be talking about that when we show you the filtration, because we increase the surface area of the filter that we use. And so we eliminate the filtering problems, but consistent with what we see the laboratories doing, and to make a filtration go extremely quickly, we go to a 1/2 gram. But you could use a gram sample if you wanted to. That's not a problem with the system.
Certainly, we've done that here in our lab at times, no question.
You want to talk a little bit, Brian, about, Brian was talking about the weigh tins. Of course, we weigh a bag, a tin, or different types of holders that you may use. Brian has these. He likes to use them because?
Well, we found that with this particular tin, virtually nothing that is dry stays in the tin. So when we transfer, in this case, the diatomaceous earth into the bag, all of the diatomaceous earth goes into the bag. Same is true with most, 99% of the samples. So we rarely have to wash down the diatomaceous earth or the samples into the bags. This is a very nice tin. Obviously not necessary. We could certainly wash them down. However, if you do wash them down by using some water, we would suggest using as little water as possible.
And we'll actually demonstrate that. Brian, you also talk about the importance of putting the sample or the diatomaceous earth near the front of the tin. Why is that?
Well, when we drop the sample into the bag, or the diatomaceous earth into the bag, we're going to drop it vertically in. And we want to try to make sure, and you'll see this as we get our instrument set up, we want to make sure that we put all of the sample and all of the diatomaceous earth down below this nozzle that Chris is pointing to. Because this is the delivery nozzle for all of the solutions that go into that particular bag, whether it's the IDF or SDF portion. So we'd like to make sure it's easier to get, again, diatomaceous earth or sample down below the nozzle. So that's why we keep the weight of the sample or diatomaceous earth down in that tin area. With this particular tin, not as difficult, not necessarily as important as it may be with a tin where things do stick to the surface of the tin.
Okay, so we have samples weighed, we have diatomaceous earth weighed, we have the IDF and the SDF bags weighed. What do we do next, Brian?
Well, the next thing is very simply to begin the process. The nice thing about the process is once you've turned the instrument on, and of course you have your nitrogen set up to come onto the instrument, and it has to be how much, Chris? How much nitrogen? From
a pressure standpoint, we like to have an input of 80 psi as at least a minimum.
Very good. So, and we have a couple of gauges over here that show us that on the left side of the instrument.
Before we go, let's talk about a little bit about the software that's available on the system. If you buy the basic ANKOM system, it comes with AOAC 991.43, both for IDF and SDF, or for TDF, just a total dietary fiber capture. It also comes with AOAC 985.29. Those are the standard setups for the ANKOM system. You can purchase an upgrade at any time, you don't have to get it initially, that has the codex methods, which are AOAC 2009.01 and AOAC 2011.25. Those are different methods that are even more detailed than the standard methods that we talk about, but those are available with the system. Again, for today, we're going to be running 991.43.
Very good. Now, so when we turn on the computer, or turn on the instrument rather, the computer does come on, and we not only see all 5 of those procedures, but we also see a diagnostics button also. We won't talk too much about that today. We're going to go right into the procedure. So the first button we're going to press is the 99143 IDF SDF button. And Chris has pressed that, and again, the instrument now and the software, the computer will show us exactly what to do on a step-by-step basis. So the first thing it asks is, do you have your SDF bags and clamp bar D installed? Before we go any further, let's talk about 2 things. We have 6 different positions for bags, and we also have 4 different clamp bars. The 6 positions are numbered, 1 through 6, and the clamp bars are lettered A, B, C, and D. All right, so this is talking about, in this case, clamp bar D. So the first thing we're going to do is take our SDF bags, and we'll place them on the instrument. We very simply open up the top of the bag, pull the finger pull out, and the nozzle goes inside the bag, and then we're going to pull the bag up so that the top of the bag is right about at the bottom of the curve of the finger pull. Very good. Also, as we line up the bags, you'll notice that there are two short lines on each, on clamp bar C rather, and then also on clamp bar A there are two lines. We want to make sure the bags are equally distributed between those two lines. By doing this, we will make sure that the bag above, the IDF bag, or if we were doing a TDF run, our flow-through bag would go directly down into the SDF bag.
Brian, sometimes people ask me, do I have to hold this lever out when I'm putting the bag on?
Well, as you can see, if you've been watching Chris, you've noticed that he initially does pull the finger pull out. When he gets the nozzle inside the bag, then he releases the finger pull and very simply manipulates the bag up or down as needed. So the answer really is once you have the nozzle in the bag, you can release the finger pull. And actually the finger pull helps the bag to stay in position. Okay, so we have all of the bags on. Now we have clamp bar D, and every bar has a letter at the right-hand side, and on the instrument, every bar that it matches has a letter on the right-hand side. So we want to make sure the letters line up with one another. There are also two holes in each bar and two pegs on each on the instrument near that bar that we will place into the bar itself.
And the reason why we want to have these line up is because we've got a rubber pinch point that has to be facing in.
Very good. So again, our question was, are your SDF bags and clamp bar D installed? And the answer is yes, so now we can press the check mark. And what just happened is clamp bar D just closed. So it has created now a separation of the bag from the top, where in this case the precipitation will occur, and the bottom where the filtration will occur.
Brian, what if I noted that I didn't have a bag in properly? Maybe I was rushing and I have one a little bit out of position. What would I do?
Well, in fact, I think we do have a bag that we can manipulate.
Okay.
So here's what we can do. At this point, as long as we go no further, we can press clamp bar D over here on the box, and it will open clamp bar D. And then we can manipulate this bag right here, which was just twisted just a very little bit. Okay, so now we've opened clamp bar D. We have to close it by using the same process. So we'll come back over and press the clamp bar D green button. So now again it's closed. Our bags are all in good condition. So now our next question on the computer is the diatomaceous earth added in the SDF bags? So here's where we put the diatomaceous earth into the bags. I'm going to step out of the way here so Chris can put that in there properly. And again, we want to try to make sure that the diatomaceous earth all is in the bag below the white nozzle. You notice how Chris is, once he has the tin near the bag, he drops it quickly down into the bag itself. He's quite adept at this, I might add.
Notice if I have to rinse them down, I try to use less than 3 milliliters, in this case water. If I saw some sample above this nozzle, I could also, like this is a little high, I could just give it a little bit of a spray just to bring that down.
And we do try to minimize the amount of water that we use.
The also thing that's nice about these tins, and I've been to a lot of labs that use a plastic piece, so with the tins, I'm able to bend it a little bit and make it easier to fit into the bag.
Of course, the size of the tin is not the important thing. This is a relatively small tin, but larger tins certainly can be used also. So at this point, all the bags have been moved to some extent. So what we would do is we would go behind our effort and just lift them up so that now our next step, which is showing up on the, which will show up on the computer rather when we press the green check mark. Our next step would be to place the IDF bags on the instrument. So right now, our Diatomaceous Earth has been added to all the SDF bags.
And that's where we'll continue on with the next step.